What's up, guys, and welcome back to episode 17 of the podcast. My name is Robbie Cassidy and I'm your host today. And today we're going to discuss knee injuries and how to prehab and rehab knee injuries. So the goal of this podcast is just to raise awareness of the people that there is prehab methods that you can take. And prehab is obviously prehabilitation, so before you get injured, or if you have been injured, taking care of it so that you're not getting injured again. And just to raise the awareness, because a lot of people that don't understand or don't know that there is multiple things you can do for a knee injury before you get back to training on the pitch, or before you get back into your sport, or before you start running again, to build it up and give yourself the best chance of competing without getting another injury. Now, injuries can't be ever completely prevented because it depends on a lot of factors, including the chaos that's in the pitch or the chaos that's in daily life. So you can never say that it's going to be 100% preventable, but what you can do is set yourself up for the best, to put yourself in the best possible position. So I'm going to advise on a couple of simple methods to reduce the risk, and then after that I'm going to talk through, before that I should say, I'm going to talk through a few things, a couple of issues that people have when they are rehabbing their knee after surgery and when they are returning to sport. Now, before I jump into the podcast fully, I just want to talk really quickly on my foundational mobility program that's out at the moment. And the program itself is a 5-day week, and it's a 6 to 8 week program, and it is scaled. So it's a mobility program for people who have an understanding of mobility, but still just want a bit more structure in their plan or in their routine, because there is a lot of people who do have a good understanding and they know a few exercises. They just don't know how to mix it together, and they don't know how to mix, let's say, breathing in and strength in as well, so you get the best out of your session. So that foundational mobility program can be found on my website, or it can be, if you go onto my Instagram page, my website is themobilitytutor.com and my Instagram page is mobilitytutor. Go in there, go into my bio, and there's a link in my bio that will bring you straight to it and give you all of the information on it as well. So that's the foundational mobility program. It's an excellent one for anyone who has an understanding of mobility but just want to find a bit more structure, get a bit more structure in their plan. So I'll start out talking about rehabbing a knee injury after surgery or after an injury. So some of the issues that people have is, a lot of the time now, a knee injury can be anything from, it can be something small like just getting a knock into the side of your knee. Now that usually doesn't warrant surgery, but things that would warrant surgery would be more like an ACL or a PCL injury, maybe a grade 3 MCL injury, or an LCL, which is on the outside, lateral collateral. And some people are getting, or you can get surgery as well for a meniscus injury, but I won't go into massive detail on that because they are kind of looking away now, unless it's very severe. They're looking away from getting surgery on light or grade 1 meniscal injuries that aren't that bad, because they will cure themselves or heal themselves to a certain extent. So one of the main issues that people get, especially after an ACL injury, is they never get the full range of motion back into their knee. So they can't ever lock out their knee fully, and they can't bend it up fully. It's one or the other. So terminal knee extension is when you lock your leg out fully and you're standing with a straight leg. Let's say your knee is in a strong position, but it's only strong in that from vertical force, but it can still collapse in either way, and that's what the MCL and the LCL are for. So a lot of the time they don't get that terminal knee extension, which reduces the strength in the knee, because obviously the muscles never get to work range of motion, but it puts you at a small bit of a disadvantage as well, because you're not getting your joint back working fully. So you'll have one leg that is perfect, and then the opposite leg that might not be as mobile. So it's really important when you do get back, or when you are out of surgery, that's one of the main things you want to focus on, trying to get terminal knee extension and full flexion both ways, because it's extremely important just to get the body healing properly again. Now, another thing that people get, especially after surgery, is they have this pain that's in their knee all the time, and it's a persistent pain, but it can become chronic over a long time or a long period, depending on what you're doing. And there's a lot of things that play into this and what causes that persistent pain. And it can go to the point that if you have pain there all the time and you don't really know, you don't understand what's causing the pain, you might go back in to get another MRI. And I know in a couple of situations, not even one, in a couple of situations that people have gone in to get an MRI, it's turned out they had maybe a small bit of a cartilage injury, and they're straight in to get surgery again. So they're after their 9 months of surgery, or their 9 months of rehab, and then they just a small bit of pain left over. They don't really understand what's happening or why it's there, and they can't, even though they're doing the same things over and over again, they can't seem to get rid of it. Go back in, get an MRI, and there may be a small bit of a niggle there, something small in the MRI, back in for surgery, and then they're out for another 12 weeks or 16 weeks depending. Now, understanding what's causing that pain is going to be really important, and I've done a podcast on the pain experience, talks about everything that contributes to pain. I even talked about it in my last podcast as well, where there's so many factors, there's multiple things really playing into that, and that's your stress and it's worry and anxiousness and your sleep and all that. But really, pain is your nervous system, and it's threat to your nervous system or threat to your body. Now, there can be lots of different things that play into that. So if let's say you did injure your knee and you're getting back to sport, and the first time you go out on the pitch, you find that your knee starts hurting you again, starts aching again. You don't really know what it is, but you'd be worried because you've injured it before, so you're going to be hesitant getting back out there. Now, why is that happening? So there's a lot of different things you have to take into account. Now, it could be weakness, there could be still swelling in the joint, but you have to take into account that it may be the fact that your body knows that there was a surgery there, knows that there was a lot of trauma to that area, and has left an emotional imprint, I suppose you could say, on your brain and on your nervous system, and now your sensitivity around that area goes really, really high. So anytime you start working on it and start moving it and start actually bringing it out of its comfort zone, then the body will start kicking up with pain. So it might not mean that there's any injury there, but you have a lot of pain because it's protective. It's protecting the area. So that's something that you have to get over when you get back to sport. You can't have a body that's really protective over one area, or it's going to change your mechanics and it's going to organize itself differently to avoid that. So it's really important to work on getting rid of that pain as best as you can. And there's lots of things you can do. Now, other things as well that might pop up when you're rehabbing it or when you're getting back after an injury is that what happens to a lot of people, and this is more so with the ACL, but it does happen with meniscus and happens with every injury, is a physio a lot of the time will compare to the opposite leg. So they will say, let's say, if they're doing a biodex or if they're doing anything like that, or strength tests, they'll compare your left leg to your right leg. Let's say if the left leg was injured, and they'll compare it to your right leg, and they'll keep doing that all the time. Now, there is research showing, and I can't tell you off the top of my head exactly what the percentages there are, but it's very high. It's like a 200% chance, something crazy like that you will tear your opposite ACL on the opposite leg once you return to sport. And there's reason behind that, or there's backing behind that, and it's not just you're unlucky in that, but it's the fact that when physios are doing this, and it's not their own fault, but it's just there. Sometimes you get lost in that you're always trying to improve one side, that you neglect the other side. So you're strength training the other side, but you're not keeping it to the same level. So while one side is coming up, while your injured left leg is coming up, your right leg is actually coming down with strength. So it's not at the same level, even though you're measuring them over and back and checking what they're like and how close they are. The right leg actually strength starts to reduce and decrease and gets worse and worse. So while one's coming down, one's coming up, they meet in the middle, and you've so much work done on one leg, and a lot of the time people don't take the time to actually do it on the opposite leg as well. You've so much work done on one leg that the other one now is at risk. And that's where you can see that the injury risk really, really increases fairly significantly after one leg has been injured. So really important to take that into account when you are doing it, because I know the thing is with guys, it's tough because you are, like, especially with an ACL, you're training for 9, 10, 11 months, up to 12 months, rehabbing it, wanting to get back to sport all the time. And day in, day out, that's tough work. So people are always there. They'll do what they have to do a lot of the time, especially when you have a busy schedule. You're not going to take the time to sit down. If you feel that you don't need to, you're not going to take the time, if it takes you 15 or 20 minutes to get through the rehab on your left leg, to do the same thing on the right leg. A lot of people skip that and they skip over it. And they might do it 2 days a week or 3 days a week, but the other 3 to 4 days a week that they're rehabbing the leg, they skip out on the right leg, let's say the uninjured leg. And it's over time that has a big difference or has an effect. So it's that opposite leg deteriorates, and it's really important to work on that. Now, the next thing then would be looking at a return to sport protocol. Now, return to sport is once you're transitioning from actually, let's say, being in the gym to running on the pitch to getting back into sport. Now, I'm just going to use football or hurling as an example because it's an easy example to use. So the return to sport is probably one of the most important parts of it, because it's you're taking the time to go from a controlled environment, which is the gym, even though you can increase your weight and you can do these different things, to a chaotic environment where it's unpredictable. You don't know what's going on. You don't know what other people are going to do. So you're always trying to avoid it. Now, I've seen so many return to sport protocols that it's just gym, keep going, build up your strength, build up your straight line running, build up your lateral movement, and then get straight into it. And they go from that straight into playing, and then they get injured again. They don't know what happened, because there's no progressive increase of the chaos basically. And chaos is just when you can't control it. So when you are controlling it and you're running in straight lines, that's perfect. But running in straight lines is a lot different than running in a straight line when there's a fella in front of you. You have to get past him, and then there's another lad trying to nail you on the opposite side. That's a different story. There's so many more things you have to take into account there. Or when you're landing from a jump, there's a fella coming down behind you. When you land, you have to turn and give a pass. It's a different type of a skill. And it's very hard to replicate that in the gym. You can replicate it in the gym, but it's these small increases over time, progressively, that will make a difference. And you have to take into account fatigue. So 75% of all ACL injuries happen in the last 15 minutes of a game. So last 15 minutes it's actually both halves, but last 15 minutes altogether of a game, and that's in soccer. So when you take that into account, it's fatigue plays a huge role. Now, you've done all the running in the world, but running straight lines and running sprints, as everyone will know, is a lot different than running in a game, where there's a lot more things to take into account. There's more lateral movement and stopping and starting, accelerating and decelerating, all that stuff. There's a lot more of that in a game than there is than what you do, obviously, when you're on the sideline. So, or when you're rehabbing, I should say. So you're trying to replicate that as best as you can when you are returning to sport. Now, once you do that, you're getting back in, you're taking your time. So your best way to do it, or easier way to do it, is jump in and out of drills. Pop in for a drill for a few minutes, come out, in another, come out. That way you're building up your tolerance to be able to get through the full session. Because going from running straight lines and running 5Ks and doing all these different movements into a 60-minute session or a 70-minute session is way different, because there's a lot more that your brain has to take into account. So it's not even the fatigue in the body itself, it's the fatigue in the brain as well. And lastly then is your fear of re-injury. And it happens to a lot of people, and it's so common. So your confidence isn't where it should be with the knee. So you're, after spending your, let's say 10 months, because the majority of them is 10 to 11 months to get back, and now you get back, but you haven't tested it in the same way. And this comes back to return to sport protocol. This is why they should tie in well. You need to find movements that are going to be affecting you. Okay, so I know with even just one guy I was working with last year, he was perfect at everything. All his strength was there. Everything was there. He was able to do all his lateral movements, jump, landings. Everything was perfect, but was very uncomfortable going down to pick up a ball, as if there was somebody coming in behind him. So it was really uncomfortable with that. So we actually had to take that portion and run over it over and over again, and practice it in different environments and practice different movements coming out of it to build up the confidence and build up the, build up the confidence there again, and really try as best we can, reduce that fear of re-injury. It's always going to be there, but you need to try reduce it as much as you can. And building confidence in these particular movements, particular patterns and positions is going to really help your return to sport, but it's also going to test your body and your nervous system enough so that when you get into that in a game or in a chaotic environment, it understands or it knows what to do. Because you obviously always can't think about what you're doing, but it does give you the backing to know what you're doing. Now, moving on from there into people. So that was people who were just out of surgery and getting back in. Let's look at the people who had an injury a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, and got returned to sport, even maybe played a season, and now they're back into the preseason again. So what are the mistakes that some people make here? Now, so let's say you've gotten over that fear of re-injury, and you've gotten over the fact that it may, or your confidence is good again, So you said, I'll take the winter off and I'll go back gymming properly again. Now you have to understand that you're predisposed with any injury. You're predisposed to that injury again because of the fact that it was injured once, so it's not going to be the same, obviously, depending on the program and all. So you completed a comprehensive program, you've returned to sport, and then the next season it's time to go again, but you don't do any prehab. Okay, you don't do any of your prehab. You just follow a normal S&C program. You don't do any proprioceptive or vestibular work, any balance work, or any movement exercises. And all you're doing is squats, heavy squats, let's say, and you might be doing a split squat, you might be doing, deadlifts, stuff like that. Now, when you get back into season, you're at a higher risk of injury again because you didn't take the time to go through the same, even if it's simple movements, in that pre-season. Because a lot of the time when coaches or S&C coaches are programming, they are programming a lot, and it's not to their own fault or it's not their own issue. They're programming for performance and they're programming for prehab, but it's muscle prehab more so than joint prehab. So they're programming to, you don't get, so you're not getting a hamstring injury, you're not tearing a groin, stuff like that. And because of that, you're predisposed to injuring joints because of the fact that you're not practicing like jump landings, you're not practicing acceleration, deceleration, you're not practicing turns, stuff like that. So, which are more common in a game than you doing a max 1 rep squat with a fella on your back, realistically. But yeah, I'm not saying, the thing is, they're done for a different reason. Your S&C in the preseason is done for a different reason. It's building power, it's building strength, it's building durability and resilience. So all that comes into play, but you just need to, there needs to be a breach or a gap there, or a time frame that you start working on movement, and that you don't just go from a heavy squat into sprints on the field or into a game situation, because it's different. So acceleration, deceleration, stop start turning, up jump landings, stuff like that, all need to be taken into account, and there should be a block that's included. So as I was saying, you're forgetting about the prehab. You need to take the time to go through that work. Take your time, take a couple of weeks, include it with your gym work as best you can. And plyos are a good form of prehab. They're an excellent prehab exercises or movements, because they build tissue tolerance and they build that reactivity. But the only thing is, they need to be repeated. So it's repeated plyos. Then when you move onto the pitch, it needs to be also worked into what you're doing. So you're not just doing box jumps, you're actually practicing up, catching the ball, landing on one leg, stuff like that. All that needs to be taken into account. So what would you focus on then? What do you want to include in your prehab? Now, I'm talking specifically for knee injuries, but you can adapt this to anything that you're talking about or anything you're thinking about after. What would you focus on specifically? Now, if it was me that was doing it and I was planning a session, there's a few different things I would focus on. Now, building tissue tolerance, building reactivity, muscles, and building joint tolerance or joint stability is a huge part of what I would include at the start. And taking the time to work on your plyos, double leg, single leg, and then actually work on your acceleration, decelerations, working on your turning, and then working on landing on one leg. Now, once you've that done, I'd actually be moving into making it more chaotic, landing on one leg where you have to get out of the way, landing on one leg while you're catching a ball, jumping and landing, skipping, stuff like that, changing it up so that your movements replicate movements that you're going to be doing in a game, and that your body gets used to doing that again. And it's really important to take the time to go through it, but then take the time to recover as well. So there's no point loading, and then getting back into season, and then just loading again, and not taking the time to actually manage that load and recover and let the body adapt. So that would be the first thing. After that, then I'd be looking at my schedule when I am getting back. And as I said there, that load management is going to be really important. You need to take a holistic approach to it. So looking at your schedule, if you find that you're training Monday, Wednesday, Friday on the pitch, you're gymming Monday, Tuesday, let's say Wednesday, Thursday, because I know a lot of guys that do this, Wednesday, Thursday, they might take Friday off and they might gym Saturday and they might go for a 5K on Sunday. Like, that's way too much to be doing, from going from nothing and then going back into that. You'll last a couple of weeks, you might last a couple of months, but it does build up. And especially as you get older, so once you get over, let's say 30 years old, then you won't last as long doing that. The body won't be able to withstand it for as long. So really important as you get older to take the time to actually manage your load a lot better, take a holistic approach to what you're doing, and what can you mix in and out? What can you take out? Like, because taking a session out sometimes can be way better than actually doing a session in terms of the adaptation that you get. So if you're training 3-4 days a week, then you take a session out, or if you're training 5 or 6 days a week, but you take a couple of sessions out, you'll find that you'll be way better in the sessions that you are training as opposed to training at 30% or 40%. Now, touching on when it comes to a knee injury itself, and we're looking at understanding pain and understanding, have an idea of what's causing you pain. So we talked about when you return to sport and you're running and you're doing that and you're back playing, and once you go from there, okay, and you're actually on the pitch and you're running around, you have to be aware of if you take a bang to that knee, or if you have a hard training session, you're most likely going to get pain in that knee as opposed to anywhere else, because it's your sensitive area in your body. Because it was injured before, you have a lot of trauma there. Your body understands, or your body knows that there was trauma there, so it's going to kick up earlier at the knee than anywhere else. Okay, so it's really important to know that. Now, I say that because I know guys, and I have an issue kind of, I won't say completely against it, but surgical repair for meniscal injuries, I think is, it's overdone. It's definitely overdone for athletes, and that's in the knee and the hip. There is research showing that now, and I shouldn't say this without quoting the paper, but I know there is research that it's something like 75% of athletes over the age of 25, I think it is, have a labral tear in their hip, but most of them are asymptomatic. They don't have any, this is in GA athletes, they don't have any symptoms, so because a lot of things playing into that. So is it just wear and tear? Are these cartilage tears more just wear and tear than they are actually a severe injury that you have to get surgery and get it taken out, and then down the line suffer with osteoarthritis or early onset arthritis? So I do now, before I go in and down that track completely and start nailing it, there's definitely times that it may be needed, but I think it's overdone, and it's overdone in younger athletes a lot, I think, because if you're to get it once, you're very likely to get it again. And just not understanding pain and not understanding what's causing your pain is a big thing as well, because you could be out there, and I know a couple of guys who would have been, like, they would have come to me after, but they went through a rehab program, they got out on the pitch again, and they started getting pain in their knee. They got a scan. Surgeon said, right, you need that out. Got it repaired, they got it taken out, the cartilage taken out, meniscus taken out, bits of it, I should say, and then they missed the whole season. So they've just missed 2 seasons there because of that, because not understanding it. A lot of the time, if you give that a couple of days, if you give that a week, maybe 2 weeks, and take your time to do the rehab, that pain will come down and you can progress back into activity again. But if you go in and get a surgery, the reason the surgery does work a lot of times is you go in for a surgery, you get the surgery done, and then you have to take the time. It's not that you can go back playing. You have to take the 10 weeks, 12 weeks to rehab it afterwards. So it's really, you have to look at a lot of different factors are obviously involved in that, but the fact that you have to get a surgery, you have to sit down and do it after, is going to be a huge one. The same comes back, not that I'm not trying to go off topic now, the same goes back to rotator cuff repairs. Like, if people get a rotator cuff repair, especially over the age of 45, 50 years old, a lot, like, not the majority, but a lot of people have a rotator cuff tear and have no symptoms at all. Then other ones do have it, they have symptoms, they get the repair done, and then they have to take the time to actually sit down and do the rehab. And the same goes back to joint replacements. Do you need the joint replaced, or if you just did the rehab before it? And the reason I say that with the rotator cuff repair is because at a 2-year follow-up, people who've done physio and people who got the rotator cuff repair have the same outcome at 2 years later, or it's 2 years or a year later, have the same outcome. So it doesn't make a difference if you got the rotator cuff repair or not, even though you did pay them whatever it is, $5,000 or $10,000 to do it. If you follow through with a comprehensive rehab program, the symptoms go away. Well, obviously when you have an understanding of everything else that goes on. So I would be very, not against surgery, but I would be against surgery as first line to anything. Unless obviously it's something serious like an ACL injury. As of now, it looks like you need to get surgery if you have an ACL injury and you want to go back playing sport. As of now, I stay. But Jesus, people would be people will be giving out to think about me now with the way, with the hole I just went down there, because I know there's a lot of people that have got surgery for things, and this might go against stuff that I'm talking about now, might go against what you've done. So, and I should say, clearing up, if you did get surgery and if you're back playing and if it was the right thing for you, then that's excellent. Then you should have done that. And there's no two ways about it. I wouldn't go against that. But I'm just saying, in future, we need to look at if these surgeries are necessary or not. Now, I digress and I go back to what we were talking about again. So, what to focus on in your prehab. I talked about your tissue tolerance. I talked about taking a holistic approach and understanding the pain. So now we're talking about proprioceptive and vestibular work, drills that are going to be similar to a game situation where you're doing your landing situations, where you're doing landing while you're focused on something else, catching a ball while you're landing, doing your side steps, cutting, reversing, backpedaling, and then actually accelerating and stopping on the point or at a point. All that needs to be taken into account. And then from there, you're looking at your acceleration, deceleration. You're trying to bring more chaos into your prehab work. And chaos is a word that you've heard me say a lot of times here, but control is in the gym where it's easy. Chaos is on the pitch where you don't know what's going to happen. So you just need to progressively overload the body, same as if you're in the gym, to this chaos and to these different movements. Now, that's kind of everything, guys, that I wanted to talk on today. I did go a small bit down the line of talking about surgeries there, and I shouldn't have. Well, I was going to say it anyway. I've said it before loads of times, but yeah, I went down a small bit of a rabbit hole there. So hopefully, when I brought it back, you have an understanding of my view on it, what you should be doing with prehab, and you should hopefully have a better understanding of actually what you need to include in your prehab programs, especially if you've had a previous knee injury. So before I finish up, I'll just go through it again really quickly. I was talking about rehabbing a knee and making sure that you get your range of motion back and taking control of pain if it's there all the time and getting rid of that while you're also building your confidence before you get back into sport. Now, if you have a previous knee injury but you got back to sport and it's pre-season time again now, you're looking at making sure that you're completing a comprehensive program, but you're actually including your prehab again and working on some of the stuff that you may have worked on before you went back to training the last time. And then also progressively increasing the chaos before you get back to sport. What to focus on, look at your jump landings, your acceleration, decelerations, different stuff like that, your proprioceptive and vestibular stuff, and then take a holistic approach. Have a better understanding of a pain and how your body reacts to certain situations, how your knee reacts to certain situations. And what I mean is, do you get pain if you get a bang into it, or after running on the road, or after running in a slog of a pitch where you're slogging around all day, or even if you're had a really heavy training session, does the pain come on then? And understanding that. Outside of that then, I was saying just progressively increase your chaos is the most important takeaway from now. So, and you can do that a load of ways. Now, guys, if any of this resonates with you, and if you have, let's say, previously injured your knee or had surgery on your knee and you don't really know where to go from now on, and you want to do the prehab properly, but you don't know how to structure it, then definitely get in contact with me. Send me a message on Instagram or send me an email on mobilitytutor@gmail.com, and we can talk it through a small bit more. And if you wanted to go down the path of getting the program done up or working together, then we can look into that a small bit more. But if you really don't know what to do, definitely get in contact with me and I'll see how I can help you out. Other than that, that's everything that I wanted to touch on for today. Really quick, just talking about that foundational mobility again. If anyone is interested in it, it's on my website. You can see it, get it through the link in my bio. It's 5 workouts in a week. You have 3 isolated workouts where you're picking a specific point in the body, 2 total body workouts, and it can be progressed from beginner to advanced. And it is a program for people who understand mobility, who understand what's going on, but just need a bit more structure in how they're doing it. Okay, so it does each session takes around about 20 minutes long, and you have to commit to it. You can't be doing bits and pieces here and there. I would say it's best to commit to it. You'll get the best out of it. Well, you can be doing bits and pieces, but I would say commit to it as best you can. Once you have an understanding of it, an understanding of the exercises, then you can pick and pull and draw whatever exercises you want and mash them together to make your own session, because you'll have an understanding of the structure. But yeah, that's everything for me again today, guys. Thanks a million for signing in. If you feel you know somebody who would be interested in this podcast, I'd love if you could send this on to them. And the best way you can help me out with this is by just sharing it on your story on Instagram. It gives me it gives it the best exposure. So, also, if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, I'd love if you could rate it as well and leave a comment, because that goes a long way as well with the rankings. So, that's everything from me today, guys. Thanks a million again for listening, and I will chat to you all again soon. Have a good one.